my house. I never want to see your face again. Please don't do this. I'm 7 months pregnant. I don't care about you or that baby. Leave now. Mother, please, for God's sake, just open the door for tonight. I won't go anywhere. I'll leave on my own as soon as morning comes. Please just open the door.
For a few long moments, she stood there in complete silence. Maybe she was hoping to hear footsteps coming from inside. Maybe her mother-in-law's heart would finally soften. Maybe someone would show her even a little mercy. But then, the very next moment, the voice that came from inside shattered her last remaining hope. Fariha, if she knocks on that door again, call the police. The moment those words reached her ears, Zainab froze in place. At that moment, she finally realized that the doors of this house had closed on her forever. But then, she had no idea that at that very moment, beyond the curtain of rain, hidden in the darkness, someone was silently watching her. But who was it? And had they come to save Zainab? Or to make her life even more unbearable? That mystery was still waiting to be revealed. Gathering every ounce of strength she had left, Zainab forced her weak, trembling legs to keep moving forward. She didn't even know where she was going. All she knew was one terrifying thought. If she stayed there, even for a little longer, she and her unborn baby might not survive the night. After walking for what felt like forever, she finally reached a lonely, deserted place. There wasn't a single house or another soul anywhere in sight. Only massive boulders, thorn-covered bushes, and towering trees standing silently beneath the storm. But she had no idea that she wasn't truly alone. Her legs couldn't carry her any farther. 7 months pregnant, Zainab slowly lowered herself against a large rock. The rain continued pouring without mercy. The freezing wind made her entire body tremble uncontrollably. With shaking hands, she gently rested them on her swollen belly. Then, through broken sobs, she looked up toward the heavens and whispered, "My Lord, please protect my baby. I don't understand why this is happening to me. I've always tried to walk the path you chose for me. If you've ever accepted even one of my prayers, then tonight, please keep my child safe in your protection." As the last words left her lips, her voice grew weaker and weaker. Her eyelids became impossibly heavy. Hunger, thirst, exhaustion, and despair closed in around her from every direction. But then, just seconds before she lost consciousness, she felt something. It was as if someone was slowly walking toward her. Who was it? Who was standing beside her in the middle of the storm? That answer had yet to be revealed. And the very next moment, Zainab slipped into complete darkness. Then, suddenly, she found herself in a place unlike anything she'd ever seen. There was no rain, no fear, only a deep, peaceful silence. Standing before her was an elderly woman. She wore simple clothes, her face was calm, and a warm golden light surrounded her like a gentle halo. The moment Zainab looked at her, the fear inside her heart began to fade away. The elderly woman smiled warmly, walked towards Zainab, and spoke in a soft, comforting voice. "Don't be afraid. On this lonely road, you are not alone. God arranged for your protection long before this night ever began."
As she spoke, she gently placed her hand on Zainab's pregnant belly. Then she said, "You are safe." Just those two simple words, and the very next moment, the elderly woman vanished. Zainab gasped and jolted awake. Her heart was pounding. Her breathing came in quick, shaky bursts. Panicking, she looked around.
the rain had stopped. The first rays of morning sunlight filtered gently through the trees. But one thing hadn't changed. Standing just a few steps in front of her was a young woman, strikingly beautiful, quietly watching her. For a brief moment, Zainab's heart almost stopped. Who was she? And how had she appeared in the middle of this deserted forest? Slowly, Zainab backed away. Her voice trembled as she asked, Who are you?" The young woman gave her a gentle smile. There was an extraordinary sense of peace in her eyes. In a calm, reassuring voice, she said, "Don't be afraid. My name is Noor Shah." Silence filled the air for a few long moments. Then she spoke the words that would change Zainab's life forever. "I am a jinn princess, and I was sent here to help you." Zainab could only stare at her, completely speechless. She couldn't believe that her life was about to step onto a path far beyond anything she had ever imagined. From that moment on, every step she took would uncover another hidden secret. The moment Zainab heard Noor Shah's words, it felt as though, for the very first time in days, someone had truly understood her pain. The walls around her heart finally came crashing down. She broke into uncontrollable tears. The tears streaming down her face weren't just for that night. They carried the pain of every lonely day, every sleepless night, and every act of cruelty she had suffered in silence. Noor Shah remained quietly beside her. She didn't say a single word. Perhaps she understood that some wounds must be allowed to pour out before they can ever begin to heal. After a long silence, Zainab finally found the strength to tell her story. With a trembling voice, she revealed everything. Every painful moment, every insult, every wound she had hidden inside. She told Noor Shah how her mother-in-law, Shagufta Begum, and her sister-in-law, Fariha, had made her life unbearable. In a heavy, broken voice, Zainab said, "3 months ago, my husband passed away. After he was gone, it was as if everyone in that house became a different person." She fell silent for a few moments. Each memory felt like another knife cutting through her heart. Then she continued, "Mother blamed me for everything. Fariha did the same. They kept saying I was cursed, that I had brought bad luck into the family, and that their son died because of me." Her voice cracked before she could finish. She wiped away her tears, took a shaky breath, and forced herself to go on. "Even though they could see I was pregnant, they still made me do every chore in the house. From sunrise until late at night, I worked without stopping. But no matter how hard I tried, all they ever saw were my flaws." Noor Shah remained silent. But deep inside, anger was beginning to burn in her eyes. After another long pause, Zainab spoke again. "Yesterday was Fariha's engagement. I spent the entire day working alone, preparing the food, decorating the house, and getting everything ready for the guests. She was engaged to the son of a very wealthy family, and she and her mother never stopped boasting about it." The pain was written all over Zainab's face. She looked down and whispered, "They never missed a chance to humiliate me. Mother would always say, 'My daughter is truly blessed. She's marrying into a rich and respected family. But you're nothing but bad luck. You took my son's life, and now you'll destroy our family's wealth and business too.'" Those words still echoed inside her heart, as if they had been spoken only moments ago. Zainab gently placed her hand on her pregnant belly and said softly, "I stayed silent every single time, because I truly believed that house was my home." The moment she said those words, fresh tears began rolling down her cheeks again. After a few moments, she looked at Noor Shah and whispered in a shattered voice, "But last night, they crossed every line." That one sentence was all Noor Shah needed to hear. But Zainab's story was far from over. With a trembling voice, she continued, "They threw me out of the house, in the middle of the night, during a storm, even in my condition." Her breathing became heavier. She gently held her pregnant belly and whispered, "I couldn't understand what I'd done wrong. I only wanted to protect my baby." After those words, silence filled the air. Noor listened quietly to every single word. But, behind her calm expression, a decision was slowly taking shape. When Zainab finally finished, Noor gently placed her hand on Zainab's shoulder. Then, in a soft but confident voice, she said, "Sometimes, those who choose cruelty forget that every night is followed by a sunrise, and every tear is answered in its own time." Zainab looked at Noor without saying a word. She had no idea that those words were far more than simple comfort. They were the very first sign of a life-changing miracle that had already begun. Time passed quietly. Before she realized it, 8 months had gone by. Throughout those months, Noor never left her side. One day, she looked at Zainab and said, "Don't ever think you're weak. You're a good woman, a woman whose faith in God has carried her through the darkest nights. Face your hardships with courage." Then she continued, "If I wanted to, I could give you a house filled with gold, silver, and every luxury imaginable. But that would take away your greatest strength. True success is a success a person earns through their own hard work." Zainab listened quietly. For the first time in months, a new spark of hope lit up her heart. A few weeks later, Zainab gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Noor never abandoned her. She stood beside Zainab through every hardship, every challenge, and every painful moment. Whenever Zainab thought of Noor, she would appear as if she had been there all along. Slowly, the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. Before long, Zainab's daughter was 3 months old. One afternoon, as she looked into her baby's innocent eyes, she made a promise to herself. She would never let her daughter grow up feeling helpless. She had to build a better future. But there was one question that haunted her. What could she possibly do to start over? Then one day, while working in the kitchen, an idea suddenly came to her. She remembered that everyone had always loved her homemade fruit ice cream. So she decided to make a fresh batch, carry her baby in her arms, and begin selling it in a small neighborhood nearby. People quickly fell in love with the rich, refreshing taste of her fruit ice cream. But what won their hearts even more was Zainab herself. Her kindness, her honesty, and the warmth in her smile. Little by little, word began to spread. Soon, everyone in town was talking about Zainab's fruit ice cream. Before long, large stores and shopping malls started placing orders. What began as a small dream grew into a thriving business. God had placed extraordinary blessings in every step she took. Even Zainab could hardly believe how far she had come. But deep in her heart, she knew the truth. Her unwavering faith in God and her determination to never give up had become the foundation of her success. And today, Zainab is the proud owner of one of the most successful fruit ice cream companies in the region, living a peaceful, prosperous, and honorable life with her little daughter. But during those 8 months, Zainab's life was about to change in ways that Shagufta Begum and Fariha could never have imagined. In less than 8 months, Zainab had built such an extraordinary reputation that some of the city's most successful business owners were eager to work with her. Her hard work, her honesty, and her kind heart had earned her the respect of the entire city. But the greatest twist of fate was still waiting. Among those business owners was a wealthy and highly successful young entrepreneur named Farhad. By then, he had become Zainab's business partner. With every passing day, Farhad admired her simplicity, her determination, and the strength of her character even more. Eventually, he made a decision that would leave many people speechless. He decided to send a respectful marriage proposal for Zainab. But there was one secret that no one saw coming. Farhad was already informally engaged to someone else. And that someone was none other than Fariha, Zainab's own sister-in-law. It was the very same engagement, but Fariha and her mother, Shagufta Begum, had always bragged about. The same engagement they used to humiliate Zainab again and again. But now, time itself was about to make them pay for every ounce of their arrogance. Farhad told his mother, Nasima Begum, that he wanted to marry Zainab. Since Farhad was her only son, she couldn't refuse the one thing he truly wanted. Just a few days later, Nasima Begum arrived at Zainab's home with a marriage proposal.
Zainab thought about it for a long time. She prayed with all her heart. And finally, placing her complete trust in God, she accepted the proposal. Then the day arrived that Zainab had never even dreamed of. The same woman who had once been thrown out into a storm in the middle of the night was now becoming Farhad's bride, surrounded by love, respect, and honor. The marriage ceremony was completed. Prayers were offered. And at that very moment, a fire of regret began burning inside someone else's heart. The moment Shagufta Begum and Fariha heard the news, they struggled to hide their emotions. Quietly, they were consumed by their own regret. For the very first time, they looked back at their pride, their cruel words, and the heartless choices they had made with deep remorse. Meanwhile, the entire neighborhood could talk about only one thing. People kept asking each other, what happened to the engagement they were so proud of? That question wasn't aimed only at Fariha. It was aimed at her arrogance as well. Now, Shagufta Begum and Fariha were carrying the weight of their own decisions. And Zainab, she was still the very same person. Kind-hearted, gracious, and humble. Even after gaining success, wealth, and respect, she never allowed pride to enter her heart. Perhaps that's why people say, time never stays the same. The person who looks down on others today may be forced tomorrow to regret their own choices. But the one who keeps moving forward with patience, hard work, and unwavering faith in God will always find the destination meant for them. Never forget, cruelty may seem victorious, but only for a little while. Patience, faith, and righteousness always win in the end.
If you enjoyed this video, please support us by liking the video and subscribing to the channel.